Hello everyone. In this presentation, I will be explaining the concept of FPGA architecture. So as you are seeing these two diagrams in this particular slide, so left hand side of the diagram over here is going to represent the FPGA structure, which I will be calling it as a generic structure of an FPGA fabric, which I am going to make use of. So this is the FPGA general structure, and the right hand side you can see the one of the main element which is contributing for an FPGA structure, which is nothing but an interconnect. So this we'll be discussing in detail. So before starting with the concept of FPGA interconnect, let me start explaining you about the FPGA structure. As you are seeing in this particular diagram, the entire structure of an FPGA, it is going to consist of mainly three major elements, which we call it as a combinational logic. So this entire part of logic elements, what you are going to see as split up, this is called as a combinational logic. It will be having an interconnect or the wirings, what you can see over here. It can be from the connection of IOB block to the combinational logic block, or from combination logic to the IO block. Along with that, it may have interconnects used in between different logic elements, what you are going to find in this particular diagram. So the third most part is the IO pins, which are also called as IO blocks, which I have mentioned it as IOB in this particular diagram. So in general, if I take a structure of any FPGA fabric, it will be having mainly three elements. One is the combinational logic, second one is the interconnects, and third one is the IO pins or IO blocks. Let us discuss what are these three in detail. Combinational logic, this entire part of the logic elements will be contributing to the combinational logic structure. So I can call a combinational logic nothing but it will be divided into smaller units. What we will be calling it as a logic element. In brief or in short, it is called as LE or CLB, which is nothing but a combinational logic block. So this is going to form function of several logical gates. So we have the advanced knowledge of the different types of gates in terms of basic as well as universal gates. So this entire combinational logic or combinational logic block or the logic elements, what you are going to find over here, it is going to form the function of several or different logical gates. Then what about the interconnects? So interconnects are nothing but they are the connections in between the logic elements, or it may be in between the combinational logic as well as the IO blocks and all. So in general, interconnect is nothing but the wiring connection what you are going to provide for making a connection from one logic element to another logic element. So these interconnections or interconnects what we are going to use, it will be called as a programmable interconnects, and it will be organized logically into channels. So this is the general diagram for FPGA interconnects. So here you can see I want to make a connection from this particular logic element, which I will be calling it as a logical element, which is present over the right hand side, that is the uppermost right corner of your diagram, and it has to get connected with the logic element or combinational logic block which is present over the leftmost corner. So from here to here it has to connect, or in other terms I can call it as the output from this particular logic element has to get connected with the input of this logic element. So how I can make the connection? So the wiring can be done something like this. So it is done in a very organized manner. So that's why we are calling it as a programmable interconnects, which will be organized logically into channels. Here you can see the channels are divided either as a vertical channel or it will be in terms of a horizontal channel. If I am going to use horizontal wiring system, it is called as horizontal channel, and if I am using vertical wiring system, it is called as a vertical channel. Channel is nothing but the space which is left in between, or the empty space or the vacant space, what you are going to call it as vacant space in between each and every individual logic element. Either it can be horizontal wise or it can be a vertical wise. So if you see, it is just in terms of an array of logic elements which is arranged in an organized manner. So these are called as the channels. So it will be organized logically into either channels or in terms of other units. So depending upon the distance between each and every individual combinational logic block or logic elements to be connected, we can make use of several distinct types of interconnects. Suppose if I want to make a connection from the end of this first row logic element to the start of this logic element of the last row, then it has to traverse in this particular manner. From the logic element available output, I have to consider or I have to move downwards through the presence of the vertical channel phi unless and until it finds the horizontal channel 2. This is just our naming representation in terms of 1, 2 and 3 representation. So there may be plenty number of or n number of vertical as well as horizontal channels which is going to connect from one logic element to another logic element, depending upon the whichever the logic the element you are going to connect first, the channel numbers you are going to prefer. So now it has to get connected from the logic element this particular output through the vertical channel phi unless and until it finds the horizontal channel 2, and then it takes the path downwards via this vertical channel 3, and again till it finds the horizontal channel 3, it will be run, this wiring will be run in this particular vertical manner or downwards, and unless and until it is going to find the vertical channel 1, it will be following the channel 3 of horizontal channel, and then finally it will get connected to the input of this particular logical element block or CLB. So this is how we are going to make use of the interconnect. So whenever I am going to talk about the concept of interconnect, so we are going to follow, in case of an FPGA design, we are going to follow either fully custom type of design or a semi-custom type of design. In depth you will be studying these concepts in your higher semesters. So if I am concentrating upon a fully custom type of design, it is in our hand, that is the liberty of a designer. So he or she can choose the interconnect, the material of the interconnect and the wiring system and the length of the interconnect. Everything is left free for the designer, and they can opt according to their wish. Whatever the output they are going to prefer or predict, according to that they can start designing with the wiring system. But in this particular FPGA interconnects, since wiring is a global property of any kind of logical design you are going to follow, we are going to follow a semi-custom type of design. Semi-custom type of design in the sense, I am not having an entire liberty to choose the wiring, that is width or length of the wiring system according to my own wish. Rather than that, I am going to use the pre-designed wiring system. So pre-designed wiring system will be available, and we are going to make use of that particular wiring system in order to make the interconnection between each and every individual logical elements. Usually we are going to follow three distinct major type of circuit technologies for configuring any sort of FPGA system, and it will be in terms of SRAM, antifuse as well as flash. Further, we will be discussing regarding the concept of interconnects, where we are going to use the interconnects, and FPGA must be capable enough to use the interconnects of distinct possible lengths. So that we will be discussing it in the next slide. So this is regarding the brief concept of interconnects, what you are going to use or have in case of a generic FPGA structure. And the third most important element what you are going to have in case of an FPGA structure is nothing but an IO pin. IO pin is called as IOB or IO block also. So again, these IO pins or IO blocks, it will be programmable for both the inputs as well as the outputs. And along with that, you will be having a low power or high speed connection features also available, or it will be provided in terms of your these IO blocks or IO pins. So these IO blocks or IO pins are nothing but it will be a sort of input what you are going to apply for your combinational logic, and what is the output you are going to expect out of that particular combinational logic. So those blocks will be called as IO pins or IO blocks. So this is regarding the brief explanation of an FPGA architecture. So next we will move on with the FPGA interconnects, wherein we are going to make use of this vertical channel or the horizontal channel, whatever it may be, depending upon the different possible lengths. So these are the segments of varying lengths as well as the offset segments. So here you can find the logic elements. So interconnects means I am supposed to make a connection of the logic element. So either I can make a connection from logic element 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, something like that. So if you see here, I have used 4 distinct interconnects, named it as length 1, length 2, length 3 and length 4. So this is one signal, second signal, third signal and fourth signal of different possible lengths. So the top signal, what you are going to see over here, it is mentioned in terms of length 1. So this particular length 1, suppose if I want to make a connection from this first particular logic element or a combinational logic block, so length 1 I am designing it for this much particular length. So I can make use of that particular wire to connect from one block to the immediate next block, that is the second block. So it is having this much length. Similarly from here to here, so you can see the distance between each and every individual logic element what you are going to have, the interconnect length is maintained in a similar manner. Next is the length 2, which I will be using it for the signal 2. So this particular length of the interconnect what I am going to make use, it is from here to here. So immediate next block I cannot have it because its length is bit large when compared to the previous interconnect length. So suppose if I want to connect from the first block to the second logic element block, I am using this particular interconnect. Similarly, I cannot connect it for this particular block, I can connect it to the immediate next block. Similarly, for the signal 3, the length 3 I have mentioned, it is slightly larger when compared to your signal 2 length. So I am making a connection from the first block to the third block here. So similarly, length 4 to the first block to the next fourth block. So these are the concepts behind the interconnects what we are going to make use of if it is having a variable length. Similarly, offset length, it is going to repeat one after the another. So just like your segments of varying length, I can have the offset segments also wherein I am having a connection. Say this is the particular length which I am going to maintain for the first signal, and this is the length which I am going to maintain for the second signal, and it will go on repeating again and again one after the other, so in the same manner. So how many offset segments I have used in my designing or programming. So we have a brief knowledge about the FPGA architecture. Now let us go with the physical design part of an FPGA. So field programmable gate array, that is FPGA physical design steps, can be broadly classified either in terms of a placement or routing. So these are the two important steps which we are going to follow in the physical design. One is the placement and second one is the routing. Placement is nothing but how you are going to place the logic elements or the IO blocks or IO pins. So that is discussed in the concept of placement. Suppose if I am considering these are the distinct logic elements or the combinational logic blocks, or it may be an input output block. Say we will call it as a logic element for this particular example. One particular placement diagram I have marked it as bad placement, and second one I have marked it as good placement. What is the difference between this bad placement and good placement? Before going into this particular example in depth, placement is nothing but how you are going to place your individual logic element or a combinational logic block, or it may be in terms of an IO pin or IO blocks. So here if you consider this particular example, I am having distinct blocks A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. I will consider it as a logic element block, and I have made a connection from block A to block H, block B to block G, C to E and D, C to F and D to E. So if you see this particular diagram, the cross marks what you are going to see over here, it is nothing but the interconnect. Interconnect in the sense wiring what I have made use of. So why I need to use wiring or interconnects? In my end structure of a circuit or a logical diagram or my end layout, I want something like this. There must be a connection between block A and block H, block B and block G, similarly C and F and D and E. So this is one of the possible way which I can use. I will not call this as a wrong structure. It is going to yield me the exact similar output. But if you see the length of the interconnects over here, so length of the interconnects what you are going to have over here, it is quite large. If the length of the interconnect which is going to have a connection from one particular block to another block, if it is having a larger interconnect length, it means that from this block to this block, in order to carry the signal, it is taking this much of delay. So the length of the interconnect is going to decide the delay which each and every individual block is going to take. So as much as possible, I have to try to reduce the delay of the block. So if I am not trying to reduce the delay, length of the interconnects is increased. Obviously, you will be using the wires of metals and all, so which is going to yield you much heavier cost when compared to the shorter interconnects. So in such conditions, it is going to yield you very high cost, very high delay. If the delay increases, the speed of operation of a particular logic or a circuit is going to decline. So it is not going to be operating in a very high speed manner. You cannot expect the output in a very quicker way. So this is the disadvantage of this particular type of placement. That's why we have called it as a bad placement. If I compare it with the right side, same way I am having ABCD blocks, HGFE blocks, everything, and I have used the straight connections. So when you compare these wires are nothing but the interconnects, the length of these wires or interconnects will obviously be very small when compared with your the interconnect what you are going to have for bad placement, which means that your placement of the block or a logic element is going to decide the delay of each and every individual logic element, the speed of operation of a particular design or a circuit what you are having. Everything is going to depend upon how you are going to place each and every individual logical element. So hope you understood why the placement of a logic element is very much essential in order to decide the cost as well as speed of operation. This is regarding the placement. So you have to take into consideration the concept of delay very much clear when you are going to have the decision to be taken in order to place each and every individual logic element. Next, coming to the concept of routing. So whatever the interconnects I was talking about in these two cases, it is nothing but routing. Routing is nothing but how you are going to make the connection or the interconnects between each and every individual logic element or input output block. So now the routing, that is the wiring connection, can be either categorized in terms of global routing or it can be categorized as a detailed routing. Global routing means I don't have to bother about the exact geometry of the wires. It can take any shape, it can take curves, it can take straight lines, it cannot take straight lines. It is according to your wish. Detailed routing means you have to provide the wiring system with an exact geometry. Just like this, it can take either a horizontal path or a vertical path, how we have seen for the interconnect FPGA explanation. So accordingly you are going to use the wiring system. So either you can have a global type of routing or a detailed type of routing. This global type of routing is going to select the general path through the chip but does not determine exact wire segments to be used. That is, it is not going to decide whether you are going to take proper shape or geometry according to your lambda based design rules also, you know. So it is not going to bother much about that. Detailed routing select the exact set of wires to be used for each and every individual type of connection. So the metrics, just like here what I told, you are going to concentrate upon the delay and all. Similarly here also the metrics what you are going to take into consideration in the concept of routing will be in terms of wire length as well as delay. The wire length is going to approximate the utilization of the routing resources. So you are going to take that particular into consideration, and the delay may be measured by looking at the delay on paths, that is with the largest number of levels of logic, or by looking into the nets whose delay is close to the maximum possible allowed value and all. So you can make a decision upon the delay concept. So here in case of global routing, one thing we have to concentrate is the global routing of FPGA mainly concentrates to balance the requirements of different types of nets or various types of nets. So you are going to route one particular net or one particular wire at a time. So the order in which the nets are routed affects the final result or your final design. So whenever you are making use of a nets or the wires, it may have either of these two problems which I am going to discuss now. So one problem, it may not be routable because there is no space available to make the connection. Suppose you are going to place two distinct blocks too close, there may not be enough space available to run a router, to run a net in between the two. channel. So one may be that particular problem, and second problem may be like it may take a path that incurs too much delay. So if you see this particular type of arrangement, here it is going to take too much amount of delay, because you are going to make use of a cross connection. You are going to place each and every individual block that has to be connected with the other one too far away from each other. So these two may be the problems which you are going to face in case of your routing, when you are going to you make use of nets or wires. So in order to solve these problems, there are many ways which have been developed, so that you can determine what is the order in which the wires are routed. So you are going to decide what will be the initial ordering to route, so that there is no delay issue. So if you want to start with the large input output nets, then you can continue or consume many routing resources which are available. So these are the steps what you are going to take into consideration while you are going to perform the two steps in terms of placement as well as routing in case of an FPGA design. So next we are concentrating upon the three distinct concepts, that is goals and techniques, as well as the problems which you are going to face in case of FPGA design, and finally the abstraction of the design. So in case of goals and techniques, so what are the goals and what are the techniques what you are going to make use in order to design an FPGA architecture or an FPGA system? So I have listed out some few goals here, or I can tell it in terms of performance, power or energy, design time, design cost, as well as the manufacturing cost. Performance means whenever you are going to manufacture any chip, or whenever you are going to manufacture any of the product, you will be expecting it to be highly performance based circuit, which means that your logic must run at a required rate. It must be in a possible way to measure, like it can be measured in terms of either throughput, it can be measured in terms of a latency, clock rate, what I have just now discussed, in terms of delay, in terms of power dissipation. So everything you can discuss how the performance of a particular circuit should be. And the second major goal, it will be in terms of power or an energy. So if I call it in terms of a power or energy goal, always you are expecting a chip which is going to run within an energy or power budget. So energy consumption will be critical in case of battery powered system, so even that you have to take into consideration. So you are going to prefer the systems or the circuits which is going to yield you lesser power dissipation or lesser heat consumption and all. So this will be decided how you are going to place the block. So in order to have the lesser amount of power dissipation, you are going to decide which type of which type of logic design you can use, CMOS logic design, or whether you are using NMOS logic structure. So depending upon that, the power dissipation is either going to increase or decrease when compared with the NMOS. CMOS will be having lesser power dissipation. In case of NMOS, if you have the basic knowledge of NMOS design, so if you take a simple example of an inverter also, the pull up will be the NMOS depletion type of transistor, and pull down will be NMOS enhancement type of transistor. So whenever there is a possibility like both the transistors are put into the conduction mode, so that it will be behaving like a short circuit, so that from VDD to the VSS or the ground level, there will be a short circuit occurring, which will be yielding you the larger power dissipation. So how you are going to overcome that issue? By making use of a CMOS logic structure, that is pull up in terms of P MOSFET, pull down in terms of N MOSFET, and depending upon this particular energy or the heat consumption, if you consider the diagram, so either you should follow the concept like it must not be too closely placed also, because if you are placing two blocks too close to each other, whenever one particular block is idle, so there may be a connection from one to another, and there may be heat dissipated in a particular block since they are placed too close to each other. So obviously cooling requirement will raise an issue over there. So in order to avoid that, you must be using the proper length of the interconnects in between each and every individual logic elements what you are going to connect. Third one is regarding the design time. So there will be the standard parts which your FPGA will be having. So it will be having several different advantages in design time. They can be used as a prototypes. It can be very quickly programmed, because here you are using the interconnects of programmable type, even the IO blocks which are of programmable input as well as the output type, and it can be used as a part in case of your final or the end design also. So that is regarding the design time. And design cost, so the design time is going to play an important role in case of your design cost, but other factors such as the required support tools which also has to be taken into consideration. FPGA tools will be less expensive when you are going to compare it with the custom type of VLSI design tools. This FPGA is bit effective. So that is regarding the design cost. Regarding the manufacturing cost, so FPGAs will be more expensive. So when you are going to compare it with the application specific integrated circuits, what we call it as an ASIC, so FPGA will be having very high manufacturing cost. So but the fact is that they have the standard parts which helps to reduce their cost. So FPGA will be having some standard kind of parts where it is just a programmable one, so it will be reducing the cost over there. So these are the different types of goals or the techniques what you are going to follow. So in order to reduce or in order to solve the specific problems, we are going to use these different techniques. One is called as multiple levels of abstraction, which we will be discussing in the next slide. So multiple levels of abstraction means it is going to follow a particular design flow right from the specification, what you are going to have in terms of length or width or any other parameters in case of your design. So whenever you are going to start with the design, we will be starting it with mentioning of certain kind of specification. Similarly for the design of an FPGA also, you are going to mention in terms of a specification as an input first. So from there, from the scratch of the design, that is the specification of what the chip must do, the designer must create an architecture which is going to perform the required function, and it has to expand the architecture into the logical design which is going to create a layout design at the end. So that should be multiple levels of abstraction, because FPGA requires a refining of an idea through multiple levels in detail. Next one is regarding multiple as well as conflicting costs. So cost may be higher, it may be in terms of a dollar, such an expensive of a particular piece of software which is to be used in case of designing of some particular element in case of your FPGA design. So cost may also be in terms of performance, or it may be in terms of power consumption of your FPGA, finally what the circuit requires. So everything will be considered in case of your multiple as well as the conflicting cost. Short design time, so you are going to follow a VLSI design wherein one of the major criteria what we are going to follow is you have to take minimum time for your design, because nowadays technology is going to improve day by day, and when you have taken a large duration of time in designing itself, so if you have not launched that particular product within the time range that is time to marketing, so obviously you will be end up with zero cost for that particular design. So you won't be able to exhibit that design what you have done in order to have the practical application. So you have to design it in a precise time. So these are the different techniques what we are going to follow in order to solve the design issues in terms of physical design of an FPGA. So last is regarding the design abstraction. So in order to explain this particular design abstraction, let me take the help of the flow chart. So this is the flow chart what you are going to see over here. So here we are having the flow chart starting from the specification to the layout part. So design specification. So if I want to take an example of an CMOS inverter, what are the design specifications? So what are the types of transistors I need, that is PMOS transistor, NMOS transistor. If I need PMOS transistor, what should be the length of the PMOS transistor, what should be the width of the PMOS transistor, everything will be given in the list of specification. So that is regarding the specification part. What is the behavior? So if I consider a simple inverter, you are familiar with your NOT gate. In your HDL lab, you might have written a programming code for a inverter, that is NOT gate or AND gate and all. So that particular programming what you are going to write, it is going to describe the behavior of a particular circuit. So it will be in terms of an executable program. It may be in a C program, it may be in a HDL level program, any type of program what you are going to apply it as a behavioral input. So that will be in terms of the description, that is an executable description of what your particular design should do. It will be described in the behavioral format. So you are not going to apply the exact input, whether your input should be equal to 0 or input should be equal to 1, you are not going to specify. But if the input is present, the output should be 0, or if the input is not present, the output should be present. So something like that you are going to give it in the form of a descriptive manner, that is in a programmable manner or a description manner you are going to give in case of your behavioral input. So after that you will be having a register transfer, that is the designs or a system what you are going to have, the time behavior is fully specified. We know the allowed input and output values. So for each and every individual clock cycle, what should be the input value, what should be the allowable output value, we will be knowing. But the logic is not specified as gates. You are not going to specify it in terms of a gate. It will be in terms of a sequential machine, or in case of a state diagram, something like that it will be mentioned. It may be in terms of a truth table also. So that will be mentioned in case of your register transfer. So the system is specified as a boolean function which is stored in the abstract memory element. So only delay and the area estimates can be made from the boolean functions over here. So that will be done in case of your register transfer. After that it is going to be the logic. So you are having a boolean expression. So that boolean expression is available in the register transfer level. So in that particular boolean expression, I will come to know what are the logical gates I am supposed to use. If I am using an expression in terms of a latch or in terms of a flip-flop also, I will come to know. So these logics will be having either the logical gates in terms of boolean expression what you have used from the previous register transfer step. Along with that, it may also include flip-flop or the latches. So after that, it will be in terms of a circuit level diagram. Suppose if this is in terms of NOT gate and gate, this will be in terms of transistor diagram, which is in terms of P MOSFET as well as N MOSFET. So just the replication of this particular logic diagram through your circuit. After your circuit has been done, that can be converted into the layout diagram. So this is your end, that is the output of your physical design flow of an FPGA. So these are the different important steps what you are going to carry out. So one is in terms of your specification, next is behavior, next is register transfer. Apart from these, you will be having a configuration. Configuration can be made in order to place the logic elements around your FPGA structure. So placement and routing we have discussed. So in case of FPGA, you are going to follow those two distinct steps, that is placement as well as routing. What is placement, what is routing, how you can make a good placement and how it is different from a bad placement. What are the different types of routing in terms of global as well as the detailed routing we have seen. Apart from that, we have seen the different types of levels of abstraction. So these are the abstraction levels of any kind of FPGA design you are going to take into consideration. So there are different approaches also which you can follow in order to design an FPGA. So you are designing of an FPGA is going to demand, or it is requiring, working down from the top of the abstraction, that is the specification, to the up from at least least abstraction description, that is in terms of your layout. So from top to bottom it will be requiring the set of description. That's why it is demanding multiple levels of abstraction. So work must begin by adding details to your abstraction, that is you are going to follow the top down approach, top down design, add functional detail. So top down design is going to decide the limited information. So you can also make use of a bottom up analysis. So bottom up analysis means it will be from bottom to the top level. So from top to bottom the cost, and from bottom to top the function. So everything we have seen. So just make a slight correction in this particular slide. So here this has to be function and this has to be cost. So this is how you are going to decide upon either a top-up approach or a bottom-up, top-down approach or a bottom-up approach. So this is regarding a brief description of your FPGA architecture. So hope you understood this concept. Thank you for listening.